This is Dan of Vagabond Awake, the YouTube channel for Vagabond Buddha. I've been traveling all over the world since 2007, been to 65 countries. I teach people how to retire cheap overseas. And today I would like to talk about the top 10 reasons to retire early first in the Philippines. You see, when you first move overseas, it can be difficult the first 3 to 6 months. Some people it takes 9 months to adjust. And this advice is limited. This is the top 10 reasons. Will vary based on your sex and your home country. So you're invited to share below any differences you see with the advice I'm giving here to help others. Your first country will be the most challenging country, I find, and many people find. Living overseas is most difficult your first 3 to 6 months. Each country after that becomes a little easier. So you need to get your travel legs under you so you feel comfortable. And the Philippines is the best way to do that for American men, I would say. But you still must complete your exploratory visit so you really have an idea of what is going to be the best country for you personally to retire in. It's just the Philippines will get you over that first 3 to 6 month hump. Well, then you're comfortable traveling around the world to discover your own personal paradise. So you should travel to at least 4 or 5 countries before you make that final decision. I'm not saying the Philippines will be your first once you know that. I'm just saying it'll help you get your travel legs. Okay, why is it that the Philippines will be the best place for you to get your travel legs? Here's the top 10 reasons. Number 1 is money. Many people that are retiring don't have as much money as they thought they would. They're often relying just on Social Security, or maybe they only have another 50 or 100, 200,000. Maybe they only have Social Security. And Philippines is one of the countries you can retire in. The average Social Security check this year will be about, starting this year, will be about $1,500. And you can actually retire in the Philippines for that fairly comfortably. Not like, you know, crazy extravagant life, but a very nice life. And so the Philippines will teach you how to live within your budget because it doesn't cost as much to live there, and you'll begin to understand how to manage your life on maybe less money you had while you were working. Now, I've done interviews with people that live in the Philippines for $600 a month, $800 a month, $1,000 a month, $1,400 a month, $1,600, $1,800, $2,400 a month. So there's a large range of costs of living that people spend living in the Philippines. Click the link below this YouTube video and come to the webpage. I'll have links to all of those so you can see the various price points that people live at and what part of the Philippines they're in. So you're not limited if if your check's only $1,500 a month. The second thing is the Philippines English is really very prolific. It's spoken almost all over the place. Even if the person you're talking to doesn't speak English, there's someone standing right nearby that will help you and the other person out. And so English is widely available in the Philippines, so a lot of the challenges you might have starting your travels in other places won't be as difficult. Plus, you'll have a little step of being able to communicate with English while you learn to solve problems with people that maybe don't speak English, whether it's Google Translate or other techniques. You'll learn to, as you travel around the world, to communicate with people who don't speak your primary language, or they don't speak it well enough for you to communicate at a sophisticated language. Okay, the third reason is the visas in the Philippines. You can just go to the Philippines as an American and many other countries, and you just get a tourist visa upon arrival, and you can just renew that every month or every 2 months or every 6 months for up to 3 years or 36 months without leaving the Philippines. And you just pay, depending, around $20 or $30 a month, depending on if you want a regular or expedited. And that's a big difference. A lot of countries only let you go for 30 days. So you can go to the Philippines and just hang out for 6 months or a year for the first stop in your exploratory visit. Get your travel legs under you without all the hassles of messing with immigration for your visa. Okay, The next thing is, as an American and European and Australian and many other countries, you just show up in the Philippines and there's a level of acceptance there, fairly complete level of acceptance that you may not find in many other cultures for a number of reasons, including the language, where they can just identify with you right away and you feel like you're home in many ways, which I'll talk about more in a second with cultural difference. So you just kind of feel accepted there. You don't feel sort of so odd, if you will, like you will in other countries. And that shouldn't prohibit you from going to other countries, but for your first one, to get your travel legs, it's a nice, it makes a nice difference. You're just accepted there. One of the next things that you'll find that feels very similar to, for most Americans or many Americans, I don't know what the number is, 60, 70, 80% is their religion. They're Catholics, and not that many Americans are Catholic, but they're often different kinds of Christian. And so if you're into going to church and that kind of thing, I'm not. I'm agnostic. I'm more of a Buddhist, really. But for many Americans, the religious aspect of it, you'll blend right in with the conversations and whatnot. And so religion is another thing. Okay, time to talk about some cultural similarities between the Philippines and America, which also applies to other Anglo-Saxon countries, you know, Canada, Australia. That is music. The Philippines really like what are we going to call it? Western music, British, American. They like the R&B, they like hip hop, they like funk. Even some of them listen to country, believe it or not. And they also listen to techno and that kind of stuff, house. But you'll find that there's more acceptance of R&B and hip hop and music in the Philippines, and you'll hear more of it than you will in other countries when you travel around. Many of the other countries are more into techno, which young Americans are into, you know, 20s, 30s, even is up into early 40s, but 50s and 60s and 70-year-old Americans, they're more into R&B and hip hop and rock and roll in the Philippines. That's a cultural similarity with the Philippines. Also, I would say love. That's really hard to put an explanation to, and it kind of goes with sex and humor and cultural similarities. You can goof off and joke around with Filipinos in the ways you can with Americans, and the same sort of nuances culturally around love and sex are there, and they'll get your jokes. More than other countries, more than Latin America or in other parts of Asia. And so culturally, I would say not just the music, but also maybe some of the love rituals and the willingness and what you would talk about if you're talking about sex is also similar. And for the same reason, humor. The Philippines, because they speak English and because they've been an American colony in the past, and because there's been a large presence of American military people in the area, and they've had more connections with America and they speak English, the humor there is also appreciated. So your humor will be understood and a little bit more appreciated. And for the same reason, and one of the most, for men at least in America, that are really into their sports, you'll find that the Filipinos have, there's a lot of similarities and availability of American sports. They're really into baseball. They love to watch and play basketball. They're really into boxing, which Americans are really into. And there's some similarities there with Canadians and Australians and the Brits also, along with music. And so the Philippines has more outlets and more availability to have those kinds of discussions, or the games playing in sports bars and that kind of thing that you're interested in. So that's another similarity that'll make you feel comfortable. And also, you'll notice the grocery stores, they'll have a lot of the food at a Filipino grocery store, they don't eat the exact same foods as American, but you'll see a lot of the foods that you're used to at home on the shelves in the Philippines, which will be a little more challenging in smaller cities in parts of, in the Vietnam or Thailand or Malaysia. The bigger cities, they've got the expat grocery stores from all the countries. You'll be fine. But in smaller communities in the Philippines, you'll find that some of those American things you're expecting to see on the grocery store shelves. And there are exceptions to that, but grocery stores are another thing where you'll find similarities. And in conclusion, why is that important? When you first move overseas, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be a struggle for you. You're not going to have the same availability for food. Your family won't be there. And so you're going to have to do some adjusting, communicating online with family and friends, and finding your way, if you will. And so if some of those trigger things for you are not coming up, like where are the sports? Where do I go for my beer? Where do I buy my beer? How do I have a conversation with somebody? There'll be some challenges for you. But if you get your travel legs in the Philippines, it'll then be easier for you to go to Thailand or, to Vietnam, Malaysia, Latin America, and the rest of the world. So those are the top 10 reasons why to begin your exploratory visit to find your paradise, cheap retirement overseas. Begin your search in the Philippines. Spend 3 to 6 to 9 months until you've gotten a really good feel for that culture, and then maybe move on to other countries, and you'll be more adapted to the idea of being in a foreign country, and it won't be so painful. Thanks for listening. This is Dan of Vagabond Awake. Again, the YouTube channel for Vagabond Buddha. Please like, comment, or subscribe. And we have retired cheap reports all over the world, and come check out our membership. Thanks for watching my video. Have a great day. Click the link in the notes below this YouTube video to get a copy of all the resources described in this video and a free copy of my ebook, How I Fired My Boss and Traveled the World. And while you're there, check out our 80 retired cheap reports and the course that teaches you how to make money as you travel the world. This is Dan of Vagabond Awake. Hey, don't give up on your retirement dreams. Come check out our retired cheap reports all over the world. You can probably retire somewhere in the world beautiful like this for much less than you thought. Thanks for watching. Click the link below this YouTube video.